What is up, guys? So you've probably heard all the news, like behind the scenes of the Arrowverse of the next season, specifically for The Flash and Batwoman, as there are two actors, one from each one of those shows, that is leaving those shows. For Batwoman, it's the main actor or actress Ruby Rose, who left the show because she didn't want the hours anymore, she didn't like the job anymore, so she left. And then there's Hartley Sawyer, who plays Ralph Dibny on The Flash, who didn't leave the show. Instead, he was fired. Now, I didn't have time to talk about this really because I didn't really want to make an entire video about just Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman and then just Hartley Sawyer leaving The Flash, and whenever I did have time to make a video, I would have preferred to do something else. However, now I do have a little bit more time to make another video, and I wanted to go over this specific thing, the news of these two actors leaving their shows, Hartley Sawyer leaving The Flash and Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman, what I think about them leaving the shows, and what that means for the next seasons, which is The Flash Season 7 and Batwoman Season 2, the latter of which is going to be impacted so much it's insane, as they decided to, instead of recasting Ruby Rose in the role, they're going to be replacing Kate Kane altogether with a new character. With that in mind, let's begin, and I'll start with Hartley Sawyer, who was fired from The Flash. The reason he was fired is the same exact reason James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the same reason why most of all the celebrities in the world are either fired from a job or they lose their career, and that's because of things they tweeted in the past on Twitter, things from like 5 to 10 years ago that Hartley Sawyer tweeted that were jokes, but they were racist and sexist, and they came to light, and now he's fired for this. Something that I think is it's absolutely ridiculous. He definitely should not have been fired for the tweets that he tweeted all those years ago. Not only were they jokes, but also they were from a long time ago, and he's clearly a different person at this point, which is, it's crazy because it's mirrored in his character who did something a lot worse than Hartley Sawyer did. He broke the law, and then he got fired for it, but he became better after that because of how he worked on himself, and that's something that Hartley Sawyer clearly already did. So not only did he already do that, but he didn't break the law. It's not exactly the same thing. In fact, Ralph Dibny is arguably a worse person, or was a worse person at that point. So it's crazy how the CW doesn't really give people second chances. I just don't think Hartley Sawyer should have been fired. It sucks because not only is he a great character, I think that him not being on the show, even if he is recast, Hartley Sawyer not being on the show, it's gonna feel like a character is missing. I'm definitely going to miss him as a character. So while I really disagree with the reason for why Hartley Sawyer was fired and the fact that he was fired at all, he was, and it doesn't seem like he's coming back. So what will this mean for Season 7 of The Flash? Well, it could either mean that they're going to be recasting Ralph Dibny, which I will be so against. I think that while Ralph is a very well-written character, or at least in the beginning he was very well-written, and at this point he is a good character, I think that it's a lot more from the actor Hartley Sawyer than it is from the writing of the character. So to recast him, he would also not only lose all of his charm, or at least the charm that we got to know, but also I just don't think he can possibly be as good. So I would be very much against him being recast, but again, I'm also against him leaving at all. Say he does leave, what would that mean for the season? Well, first of all, it'll be so weird. They're gonna basically say, well, Ralph and Sue left together, they're never coming back. It won't really make any sense, like, canonically, why he's not there. They'll just say that he's not there. But what would that mean for the storyline? Well, there was a storyline that they were going to complete in the first couple episodes of Season 7 with Sue and with Ralph, that they are never going to unless they do recast Ralph Dibny, or if Hartley Sawyer comes back. Again, say that they don't do either of those things and Ralph just leaves the show forever. It's going to be so weird how they had that storyline and then they just threw it away because of this one thing. As in the first 3 episodes of Season 7, it was supposed to resolve that storyline as well as all the other storylines involving Mirror Master. But at least for the things with Ralph and Sue, again, it's possible that he'll come back, it's possible that they'll recast him, but if they don't, and if he doesn't, then they're just going to throw away the storyline and say that Ralph and Sue left Central City and they're never gonna come back. So then there's Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman, which I would just think would kill the show. I mean, you can have a show where the main character is killed off or leaves or something. I mean, that didn't ruin Game of Thrones. That's not what ruined Game of Thrones, where the main character in Season 1, spoiler alert, he died. But this is not the same thing. Not only is it not that type of show, but also they're going to be doing this off screen. Kate Kane is going to be leaving the show off screen, probably never returning. And not only that, even if she was leaving on screen, it's just not something that a CW show can pull off, a switching of a main character, other than I guess they did it on Legend of Tomorrow in season 1 to 2, but I don't think Batwoman could do that specifically. What I think they should have done, honestly, is just replace Ruby Rose as Kate Kane. I know I said replacing Hartley Sawyer as Ralph Dibny would be a mistake because Hartley Sawyer just brings so much to the role. Well, that doesn't apply to Batwoman because, honestly, Ruby Rose didn't bring anything to the role. She was very, very bland as Kate Kane. She's not a great actress, and that was clear from the very beginning. I wasn't excited for her to be Batwoman. The internet didn't want it to be Batwoman for a completely different reason, but when it was announced that she was leaving the show, I kind of was glad, because I never really liked her in the role, and I was hoping that they would replace her, they would recast Kate Kane. Instead, they're doing something that I just don't think makes any sense whatsoever for the show, and that's replacing not Ruby Rose, but replacing Kate Kane as Batwoman with an as of yet unidentified character, a character whose casting call is Ryan Wilder, but it's probably going to be a different character from the comics. The reason I think that replacing Kate Kane as Batwoman instead of just recasting Ruby Rose, recasting Kate Kane with a new actress, the reason I think this is a bad idea is because the entire show revolves around less so Batwoman and more so Kate Kane. Everything to do with Bruce Wayne, as this new character will have no relation to Bruce Wayne, and if she does, then it's probably not going to be as strong as Kate Kane being his cousin and growing up with him. That connection, I think, helped the show a little bit and made it a little bit more interesting than it probably would have been. But the main villain of season 1 was her sister, and she's still a villain at this point. These side characters, aside from Lucius Fox, are all basically just related to Kate Kane, her stepsister, her father, all those characters surrounding them. It wouldn't make any sense for Kate Kane to be replaced by this Ryan Wilder, who I'll go over who I think that is, to have the same cast, to have the same villains, to have the same Batman-related storyline. None of it wouldn't make any sense, which is why I think it was such a bad idea to, instead of recast Kate Kane, instead of that, to replace her with a new Batwoman. I don't like this idea, but of course, that's where they're going with it, but it would probably drastically change the show. They would maybe have to change up the entire cast. Lucius Fox could still stick around, but the rest of the cast, like Kate Kane's father and Kate Kane's stepsister, and even Alice, none of it would work as well with this new Batwoman. And like I said, the most interesting thing about this show, the Batman-related stuff, would be less compelling, because this new Batwoman would have basically probably no connection to Batman whatsoever. It is a shame. I wasn't disappointed when Ruby Rose left, but when it was announced that they are replacing Kate Kane instead of replacing or just recasting Kate Kane, that was something that I was disappointed about, because I think Ruby Rose leaving gave them the opportunity to maybe fix the show, and instead they're basically not doing that whatsoever. But with that in mind, who is this new character that is replacing Kate Kane? Is it a character from the comics, and what would she be like? So, like I said, this new character is Ryan Wilder, who is actually not a character from the comics, but then again, it's just a casting call. I really doubt that's going to be her name on the show. It would be even worse if this new character is an original character, because, I mean, at this point, why would I care whatsoever? I'm hoping it's going to be a character from the comics, but let's go over the character description to maybe determine, if it is a character from the comics, which one. So Ryan actually already has a fairly lengthy character description that reads, likable, messy, a little goofy, and untamed, nothing like Kate Kane, with no one in her life to keep her on track. Ryan spent years as a drug runner, dodging the GCPD and masking her pain with bad habits. Today, reformed and sober, Ryan lives in her van with her plant. A girl who would steal milk for any alley cat and could kill you with her bare hands. Ryan is the most dangerous type of fighter, highly skilled and wildly undisciplined, an out lesbian, athletic, raw, passionate, fallible, and very much not your stereotypical all-American hero. Well, that erases my first thought, which is that they might replace Kate Kane with Barbara Gordon, which I think could have been cool if Barbara Gordon became Batwoman after Kate Kane, but this character description literally sounds like the exact opposite of Barbara Gordon as a character. From this description, it doesn't really sound much like anybody from the comics. I think that the character that it probably would fit the most has never been Batwoman, but it is a Batman sidekick that I could definitely see becoming Batwoman in the future. That character is Harper Row, aka Bluebird, who is at least a little bit similar to the character description. She did live on the street, she definitely had some bad habits, and she knows at least how to fight well. Like I said, she is a sidekick of Batman, Bluebird. She is a hero, so she does know how to fight, and again, she's never been Batwoman, but I do think that out of all of the DC characters, especially the ones in the Bat family, this is the character that fits this description the most. In terms of her being a lesbian, in the comics she's a bisexual, and on Young Justice she's also at least bisexual and also maybe lesbian, so it's not really that far from the comics, which they are making this new Batwoman lesbian as well. If they're making this character Harper Row, it would not be far from the comics at all, as this description, I think it at least reminds me the most of that character. What I think about that is, well, it's better than an original character, and I swear to God, if this ends up being an original character, then that will just be the worst case scenario ever. But if it's Harper Row, while I would prefer if they just recast Kate Kane, I am at least glad that they're using a character such as this one. And while again she's never been Batwoman in the comics, it's definitely something that I can see them doing, not only on the show but also in the comics themselves. Now, the changing of main character for Batwoman will not only affect Batwoman, but also affect the upcoming Arrowverse crossover, which was supposed to be a two-parter between Superman and Lois and Batwoman, which is a very unusual pairing. If they were going to do a two-part crossover, I would think that it would not be between Superman and Batwoman, but those two shows would be with two other shows. Superman could either be with Supergirl or with The Flash, the latter of which I would much rather see, and Batwoman would clearly be with Supergirl. That would be if they were going to do a two-part crossover, it would either be with Superman and The Flash or with Batwoman and Supergirl. Instead, it's with Superman and Batwoman, which is such an odd pairing that it just makes you think of why they were doing that. Well, the only thing I could come up with is that these are the two characters with the most connection to Batman. Superman teamed up with Batman a lot over his career, something that we've never seen, but something that's been talked about a lot, or at least enough. And Batwoman, well, it's pretty clear what her connection to Batman is. So that was what my first thought was. That was my theory. The reason Superman and Batwoman are having a crossover is that they're going to come together to maybe go find Batman, and the Earth Prime Batman will finally debut on the show. It's become a huge possibility ever since they cast him as Warren Christie plays Hush wearing Bruce Wayne's face. That means that Warner Brothers allows them to use Bruce Wayne, or at least use his face, and they cast him, which I think it definitely reinforces that theory that that's what the crossover was going to be about. But now with the Kate Kane version of Batwoman being replaced by Harper Row or Ryan Wilder or whoever this is going to be, it's not going to be the same thing, because Ryan Wilder or whoever this is going to be has, like I said, no connection to Bruce Wayne whatsoever. And while Superman still teamed up with him quite a bit, and she is still Batwoman, her connection to Batman is so loose. It's going to be so loose. It's basically she's connected to Batman because she was, I'm guessing, inspired by Kate Kane to become Batwoman, and Kate Kane was inspired by Batman to become Batwoman. That's going to be their entire connection. So if this crossover, it was indeed going to be about Superman and Batwoman teaming up to find Batman, and then Batman finally debuts in the Arrowverse, or at least this version of Batman does, then yes, it's going to be cool to see Superman and Batman team up in the Arrowverse, but why would I care about this other version of Batwoman's reunion? with Bruce Wayne. With Kate Kane, it could have been impactful, maybe even a little bit emotional, but with Ryan Wilder, it's going to mean nothing whatsoever. So because of that, I think that this will drastically change what this crossover is going to be, and it's possible that they just won't introduce Batman yet anymore. It's possible that they were going to, but because of this change to Batwoman, they won't, and they will some other time down the line, which is definitely disappointing. Like I wouldn't be excited for a crossover between Superman and Batwoman because those two characters have no connection whatsoever. But if that crossover was going to introduce Batman, I would have been very, very excited. However, again, with this new character, it's going to be so emotionless, and the impact is going to be nothing, at least between those two, that I would rather they just do it some other time. Honestly, I would just prefer if they did it on Superman and Lois, just on an episode. With that in mind, though, that's basically all I have to talk about for Batwoman, and also for The Flash, that Ruby Rose and Hartley Sawyer left their respective shows.